Hello. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? I can.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay, good. Now, yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you now. How about,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great, great,
We
great.
are still okay. So good morning.
Good morning. Good morning,
Um,
Heidi.
where are you? Where are you now? Your background looks beautiful.
It's just a background. I'm actually in a hostel in Taipei.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
So
morning. Good morning to the rest of the group.
morning. So yeah, first of all, we're Refugee Network Taiwan. We're a very young group of people. Most of us are students. I'm the only teacher here.
Mhm,
So right now we're working on refugee education, specifically online education,
mhm, mhm,
because we want to help with the education um, among refugee children. But right
mhm,
now, because of COVID-19, we can't visit Syria or Turkey or that
mhm.
area. So we're doing online um, communication.
Okay.
And we know something about your organization, and we know that you've built a school in Turkey with
Mhm.
your wife. So, first of
Well,
all, we were just wondering. Hmm?
right. I'll make a correction. Okay, it's not like we built the school from scratch, like really from starting from zero. Okay, so I'll make that clarification later
Okay.
on. Okay, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm asking you about this because
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
really
yeah,
sure how you connect with the school there. How do you
yeah.
do refugee education? Like,
Hmm.
because I thought you created the school from scratch. So I
No,
was like, wow, this is really.
yeah, because Suchi, the Buddhist organization.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. One of
Yeah.
our member kind of is their partner,
Oh,
Yoshi.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so that Buddhist organization, because they have a lot of funds and they have a lot
Mhm.
of connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were able to build a school from scratch. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
on the part of our organization, because we're just a small organization, what we actually did was with a certain community that had several, almost around 200 refugee children in that community, we were able to convince the government to open one of its existing public schools. Okay, so we were able to convince the government to open one of its existing public schools to welcome Syrian refugees. Yeah, so I just wanted to make that clarification early on.
Oh, okay. So you're opening opportunities. You're trying to open up opportunities
Mhm.
for refugee education to enter into public education. Is that
School.
what you mean?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because when my family and I lived in Turkey, which was around 2013. Okay, um, the Syrian crisis, the crisis in Syria happened around 2000 to 2001. So around that time. So sorry, 2010 to 2011. Okay, so 2010 to 2011. Um, so within, I think if I remember correctly, the 3 year period to 4 year period, um, I think most of the European countries or the rest of the world were still scrambling in trying to help out the Syrian refugees. And so initiatives were during the time it was still pretty slow. But I believe that there's so many changes that have happened already. After I think after 2015, it really it caught up. There was a lot of a faster pace in terms of initiatives to provide the children with education. So take it within the context when we were there around 2013. So it was much slower. So there were fewer opportunities for schooling. Um, Around the time 2014, UNICEF and the UN generally, it was just starting to really give more funds to the Turkish government so that the Turkish government can just mobilize its own educational system to welcome, to accommodate the growing Syrian number of Syrian refugees.
Okay.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I just muted myself, so that's why you can't hear me. I'm sorry. The question is that, so UNICEF or UN provided funds to Turkey government at that time.
Mhm.
But I'm just wondering, is the fund getting cut, or is it, become less, the resources has become less or not?
It's hard to say. I think I'm not in a position to say whether it's gotten cut or it's gotten less. Okay, but my opinion, okay, just my personal opinion, okay, because at one point the Turkish government used the Syrian refugees and the whole crisis as sort of like a bargaining chip. It was they got used as a bargaining chip because um, refugees were leaving Syria, were going into Turkey, but not there were millions of Syrian refugees in Turkey, but ultimately they tried to move and go to Europe and elsewhere. And so it became it became a border issue also for countries that are near Turkey. It became a problem for Greece, became a problem for the Balkan countries. So basically, what I'm saying is, um, refugees were moving, trying to leave Turkey as well, okay, and going to different parts of Europe. And Europe geographically, it's not really a very big continent. And so Turkey knew that it had a leverage. It had a certain leverage, a political leverage. It's like, it can turn off the faucet so the water will just stop flowing. Okay. So what I've noticed is I think the funding is still there because, the UN and UNICEF had to to help the Syrian refugees that were in Turkey already. But the trend that I've seen is um, there's also a decentralization of support, educational support and financial support, because what we've seen in the past few years is you have more Syrian refugees in Germany or in different parts of Europe. So different European countries eventually welcomed, okay, welcomed refugees. And so you have now these different countries also struggling with, just accommodating and providing appropriate education for the refugees.
Um, One thing that comes to my mind when I read about your work in Turkey
Mhm.
is that when you're doing service, have you ever encountered any objection from people you're serving, and or any just obstacles that you were facing, and how do you deal with these problems?
Okay, okay. Let me share with you a PPT, some pictures, so I can make it more. Okay, let me share my screen. Oh, Heidi, can you disable screen sharing? Oh, can you enable screen sharing?
Yes, yes. I'm setting.
Okay, let's see. Okay, there. Let's see, let's see, let's see.
Oh my God, sorry.
Oh, what
That's
happened?
mine. That's mine.
Oh, that's right. Wait. I'm
Is
trying.
this stuff?
Oh, there.
Okay.
Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me move. Okay. So talking about the objections, talking about some of the roadblocks that we encountered. There's this one family that we helped out. This first family, basically, um, the husband and wife, they're very young. I think they were, if I remember correctly, the woman was in her 20s and the man was around 21. Okay. And they had two children, and um, they left Syria. They were just in a hurry. In fact, they're cousins. So their parents made them marry at an early age because um, the woman's family was very afraid that because the woman's very pretty, and in that particular village that where they lived in Syria, it was starting to be there were more and more ISIS and other rebel groups. So they made the couple marry quite early, and it was really getting the fighting was getting nearer their area. So they just left hurriedly and went to Turkey, and they didn't really know anyone. And so um, this is like a common story. This is a common story, among the refugees, that at one point, they weren't really prepared. Okay, it's not like hey, I'm going to bring my family, to a new country, and we'll make connections first, with the people there. No, many of the Syrians, they really just crossed the border between Syria and Turkey. So at one point, there were really like just thousands of people crossing the border between Turkey and Syria. And it was overwhelming because it's not like with these people just crossing, it's not like imagine in an airport, immigration, everyone really clearly lines up, and you get to give your documents properly. So these were people just, in big groups. It was quite overwhelming. And so it was a struggle for them, really, just to at first, be able to just really assimilate themselves with um, the local communities. So this particular couple, they didn't really know anyone. So they just tried to hurriedly, get on a bus, cross the border. They ended up in the bus station. They didn't know anyone. They were like living in the bus station for almost a week when our friend, just saw them, noticed because our friend traveled a lot. And so they were just in the bus station for you know a week, and it was, if I remember correctly, that time it was November. So November, it was cold. It was winter was starting. So with the two children, So they, our friend helped out, offered them a place. So this is what you will see. This is the place that they could rent. If I remember correctly, this is like 6,000 to 7,000 NT. Okay, so this place is 6,000 to 7,000 NT. So these couple, they were our initial teachers. They helped us out in putting up the learning center. Annie and I, my wife and I, didn't just want to give them money. We wanted the man and the woman to just feel the dignity of just being able to work again. And so we decided, why not just teach them to become teachers? To teach simple Arabic, to teach simple mathematics, simple different kinds of subject. So we wanted to help this couple, but one big problem that we encountered with the couple is that eventually I found out that the man was physically abusing his wife. And basically in trying to talk with the person, I think I cannot generalize among, the Syrian refugees, but this person had a particular perception that I own my wife, that I have to it's like I'm in a position to discipline my wife if she doesn't follow what I want. So it was a cultural roadblock because just seeing her with bruises and just seeing her with a black eye in several instances. And when we tried to talk, try to resolve the matter with the man, he would often point out that it's something cultural. It's something cultural. So like what I said, I cannot generalize among either the Muslims and the refugees. But one thing I've noticed is that there's an equal status between the man and the woman. So there's really a big challenge. There's this challenge that you have to make the man, specifically for the household, okay, you have to make the man feel like it's not just the woman who is above, or it's not just the woman who's earning the breadwinner for the family. So there should be an attempt at least to make the man feel good about his status as a man. So this is one of the things that we've observed. But like what I said, I cannot really generalize. But you see, when you look at the statistics of violence against women, for instance, in Turkey or in Syria, there's a higher number of violence against women because it's a very what you would call a very patriarchal society. Okay, so there's this another cultural issue that we encountered for the Syrians, and even the whole cultural setup. The Turkish at one point they had a certain discontent. And it's understandable. It's understandable. They had this discontent for the Syrians who were coming in. Okay, definitely there were Turkish who were very empathetic. They sympathized with the situation of the Syrian refugees. But you see, it's a culture. Okay, it's a culture wherein a man can marry, a man can have several wives. Okay, and so there were, there were Turkish men who, out of sympathy, their good heart, would take in a Syrian wife, and not just one, maybe, two or three. Okay, and it creates, among the Turkish women, I guess it's not like, for a woman, it's not like I will just welcome, even the culture permits it. It's not like I will just welcome all of a sudden, a new wife to the family. Okay, so, but this is within the context, some of the Turkish men felt like they were doing something very, something praiseworthy, by taking in, several other wives. Okay, so this, this social cultural predicament, created tensions between the Turkish and the Syrian refugees. Okay, because there were more and more men who were doing this, and so to a certain point there were certain stereotypes, about Syrian women. A third cultural roadblock was that, given the inflow of Syrian refugees, don't think that majority of the refugees didn't have any money. There were many of them who used to be, very rich businessmen, doctors, highly educated, who got displaced from the war. So don't think that, everyone was like very poor. Okay, and so it's kind of sad that the real estate situation in Turkey at one point suddenly boomed. So there were more buildings, houses, being built. The prices, the prices of housing, just skyrocketed, because there were Syrian refugees who were willing. They were just really willing, with the wealth that they have. They were just willing to pay, double or triple the normal price. So here, imagine if normal Turkish were paying, let us say, 6,000 NT for a usual flat, and then suddenly you have people who are willing to pay double. So it was something that wasn't really welcomed by the communities. So the economic, the social, cultural, okay, and even when the government just created a policy wherein the Syrian refugees can avail of the healthcare system, use the government resources, the national health system. So all of these just created, some kind of a perception among some, some Turkish, that they don't really, welcome the Syrian refugees. But you see, it's just, it's just overwhelming, because we're talking about millions of refugees. It's not just thousands. So it's like, they're kind of stuck. They don't have any choice. They're here.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out so many problems. Yeah, while countries are trying to help accommodate refugees, those refugees indirectly created problems, social problems within, like, cultural, social, clash within different countries. So I'm wondering if any countries are trying to create systematic or, solutions, trying to adapt to these kind of problems. So for example, rich refugees coming into my country, how do we build a system or policies to help poor refugees, but at the same time, they don't cause, or rich refugees don't cause, you know, this kind of skyrocketing real estate. Is there
Um,
any country that's trying to do this?
I'm sure there's several initiatives because, as you have more Syrian refugees in different parts of the world, not just now, not just in Europe, but eventually even the US took in Syrian refugees, Canada took in Syrian refugees. And so UNICEF and UN, with the funds, it's starting to be, there. One of the programs that would be immediately funded would be programs that aim to help refugees become socially and culturally integrated. Goal was really to help these refugees through these educational initiatives to just get assimilated into the local culture. But as far as, for example, the last thing that you mentioned, like housing prices and rental prices just skyrocketing, going up, there will always be that economic impact. In fact, I'm not an expert in economics, but something that I do know that um, Turkey's economy is really spiraling out of control. If you check the news, Turkey's economy, it's not doing well, as far as its economy is concerned, not just because of COVID, okay, but a host of other reasons. But one of it is the impact of the Syrian refugees in the country, because you know true, Turkey has to spend a lot, not just with the national health insurance system, but really just trying to help out as well, in building infrastructure. Okay, although the infrastructure, it's really fully, it's mainly funded by the UN. But just I'm sure, in fairness to Turkey, Turkey has really done a lot also, sacrifice a lot in terms of providing financial support. So, but you see, there will be an economic impact. Okay, there will be an economic impact that it's really difficult, to control. And how does this impact, economic impact, affects the children? If you go to Gaziantep, if you go to Turkey, you will find Syrian refugees, children. You will find children who just like here in Taiwan, you have the ama, who's like picking up the recycled materials, the plastics and the cartons, carton boxes, collecting those plastics and carton boxes. You will see children with big push carts doing that. Okay, so you will see a lot of them. 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, they're still very strong, doing that. You will see families in Turkey, especially those who are, in the lower income class, who would prefer their children to work just to ensure economic survival instead of, studying. To convince the parents, we'll provide a school bus. Just allow your child to go to the school. Okay, but they would tell us, that the family is really struggling. The family, there are like 8 people in the family, and the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old is still the strongest. Okay, the father has already done so much and is already tired and weak, and so they have to prioritize survival, their economic financial survival first, okay, before education. So you will have girls, you know um, we're in the perception, especially if the Syrian refugees come from the more conservative rural parts of Syria, okay, wherein girls have to work at home and prepare themselves to become a wife. Okay, so you'll have those families who will opt for their children, the girls in their family, to just do that instead of studying.
But is it still there a way for them to maybe study a little bit or learn something after work? Is it possible to try just a little bit first? You
Mhm,
know,
mhm. It's in our experience, okay, you need to provide a reassurance. Okay, if you had the funds available, you had to provide a reassurance to the family that you can help out in terms of the financial impact. So they will always look at the financial impact of when you take away a healthy, able child, okay, to study instead of work, okay, what kind of financial impact will this have? And so, can you replace that? So that's the angle that um, they will express why they don't want their children to go to school, okay, and unless so this is our struggle because we're a small organization, and it's like you try to convince someone how important education is, that on the long term, it's like you want to show them that if the child can go to school, on the long term, there are better financial benefits. But you see, if they're hungry right now, because there are 8 children, or because winter is coming and they will be very cold again, and they need to pay for electricity and heating. It's like you need to be able to offer them something right now that will be good enough for them. So this is a struggle that we have, because it's like eventually when we approach each family has different needs and wants. So each family has different needs and wants. So in fact, I don't know if I have the slide. I have a different picture. There was this one family we were trying to convince, for the child to go to school. Let me look for her picture. Give me a minute. Wait, give me a minute.
yeah, you brought up a very, very good point. Um, because the child needs education, but at the same time, he or she needs to support the family financially. So I'm thinking if it's possible to create a system or a kind of a model to make it
Mhm.
sustainable. Like if you go to school, you're at the same time you're helping your family's income. I'm trying to
That
figure out if it is possible to happen.
I would be very, yeah. It's very possible. It's really it's really very, anything is possible, as long as you're really willing to make it happen. Okay, um, can you see this particular picture? Okay, this story is quite unique because the child, okay, um, when my wife first encountered the child, okay, so this is the first time. um, she was like, probably you will not see really, you won't really see it here in the picture, but she was really dirty and stinky. And, her parents, okay, if I remember correctly, um, yeah, they had 8 children. They had 8 children, and they were like small children. This is a culture wherein, they believe that, children, the more children that you have, the more blessed you are. Okay. And so the parents didn't want the child to go to school because first, they also feel embarrassed, if the child goes to school and, she's all dirty and the clothes are always, stinky, kids will just make fun of her, which is very reasonable. And so their request, okay, first, their request is, can you give us some supplies for washing clothes? Okay, so that was like a first request. And to make a long story short, it's like, after, we gave in to her request to like give her supplies for washing clothes, eventually it's like she was complaining, I feel tired washing for 8 children. Can you give me a washing machine? you know and it was kind of funny because my wife bought them a washing machine, and this was like she was really in a hurry. She had to go back to Taiwan that time. Okay, so um, just imagine this chronology of events. She had a 5 o'clock flight, going to Istanbul, and this is going back to Taiwan. And I think around 1 o'clock, this family is saying, that I really want my child to go back to school, but you've given us soap, but I feel tired. So can you give us a washing machine? So eventually, my wife just tried to find a way, look for someone who's selling secondhand washing machines. So she got it, delivered to the place, went straight to the airport. Okay, and then after after a year, so this is a 1 year, almost like a 1 year gap. She just visited the school. Okay, she just visited the school. Okay, after having coming, just she just arrived in Turkey. Okay, and then she went straight to the school. And when she went straight to the school, the girl was there, and she just hugged my wife. Okay, and she looked clean, and she looked much better than in this picture. 1 year gap. Okay, I cannot guarantee that this will happen with other children, other families, because with what we have experienced, it worked for them. When they asked for a washing machine, we gave, and after a year, no contact, this is what we saw. So we're really very glad. She really, the mother, fulfilled her end of the bargain, sending the child to school. But this is 2019. We haven't been able to come back because of COVID and some other situations. So I don't know now. And there were these other families as well. It's like it's the economic, financial help is understandable, but the danger that we saw was they wanted to use it at one point like a bargaining chip.